everyone. Today I am going around in a neighborhood in Sweden in the forest to find some pine cones because I decided to make pine cone jam. The thing is, I already made pine cone jam, but I don't like the syrup. It's a bit thick and it is my first jam anyway. So I'm trying to make a new syrup for my older pine cone jam, finding new cones. The thing is, when you try to find new pine cone, you have to look for green cones. Green cones are baby cones and they're soft and they should look like this. And when you gather them, be sure to gather not the full amount of cones because the tree needs pine cones to keep on being alive and reproduce itself. Be sure to not gather the brown cones. The brown cones is not something which will work for your pine cone jam or syrup. When you make jam or a syrup, it's important to wash your cones because it could be dusty and it has its own resin outside and you don't want it to be very sticky. And as usual, when you do pine cone jam or any kind of jam, you need sugar. Try to be more organic. I just said normal white sugar now. You can use honey or maple syrup, but the honey option is a bit more expensive for some people. But for longer shelf life, you can just use ordinary sugar and then dissolve it in hot water. Depends what kind of thickness you want in your pine jam. If you want it to be a bit runny, you can add more water while you see it's going down when it's boiling. And if you want it thick, you can just leave it to boil and become thicker. The thing is, when it goes very thick, it can be very hard to scoop from the jar, and you have to make pine cone jam in a way that all the cones are covered with the syrup. This was my problem, that's why I'm making new syrup. I'm just boiling some pine cones. And warming up my other jam to just take out my old jam out of the jars. So I'm boiling some pine cones right now, which means I'm making pine cone syrup. I have made pine cone jam the other day, but I don't like the thickness of the syrup itself. So I'm trying to make a new syrup and add to my older pine cone jam. So it's more liquidy and more flowy, so I can eat it easier. So it will take probably around 40 to 50 minutes to make this syrup, and we'll put them in jars later. It's very important to sterilize your jars, and the way I sterilize my jars is just in the oven on 120 Celsius degrees, leaving them there for 15 minutes. It will remove all these excessive bacteria and it will be good for our jam so it won't go moldy. Here you can see I'm adding the syrup on my jam and making it more liquidy, more flowy, mixing it around. already made syrup, and I have poured syrup into my older jam. And it looks better now, even though it's a bit runny. It will go thicker in time because when it cools down, it will become more thicker, and it has to go in the jar when it's quite warm because it's easier to scoop as well. And I have sterilized my jars, as you have seen. That's a very important step, to sterilize your jars because you don't want mold to show up in your jam. For taste test, it tastes amazing, sweet, foresty, something very different. So I also decided to leave a bit of a message from nature to you, to the viewer, and I'm just pulling a tarot card to see what is nature trying to tell you. And we got Three of Swords. Three of Swords is the card of heartbreak, a bit of heavy energy in your heart. So if you've been heartbroken, if you feel let down by someone else, by the universe, maybe someone did something wrong to you, know that it can be healed, because the clarifying card we have King of Cups, which means you will overcome your emotional hurdles, you will feel better, you will heal, and that means your heart is healing right now. So any kind of heartbreak was serving you in some way, and try to look at that in this way from the perspective of a healing energy, not a letting down energy. And you will be very strong, and it shows you're emotionally very strong. Thank you for being here.